Hi, and welcome to another Centre Court session that we've called the MBA Advantage, Driving Career Growth and Opportunity. I'm Matt Simmons, and with my co-host John Byrne, we're thrilled to be joined by four outstanding voices from leading business schools. They each will bring their unique perspective on how today's MBA, it's not just a credential, it's a catalyst for transformation. Now, John, you graduated from school just a few years ago, right? Still
Oh,
looking for a
sure.
sense of direction in your career. Do you wish that you'd done an MBA?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the misgivings I have about my higher education credentials. I unfortunately went for a useless degree in a master's in journalism. Actually, it did serve me well, but nonetheless, I wish I had an MBA and was able to create the amazing relationships that endure from it.
Well, we think you're doing okay. Hang on in there.
Well,
We're going to
thank
be
you.
talking about what career success looks like in 2025. What's driving ROI, both in the numbers and then all of those less tangible elements. And of course, how schools are rethinking everything from networking to entrepreneurship to alumni engagement. To cover all of those topics, we've got a great group of people from Rice University and the Jones Graduate School of Business, Steve Summers, who's the manager of MBA recruiting and admissions. From the Warrington School at the University of Florida, Kim Beach, the Director of Graduate Business Career Services. From the Mendoza College of Business at Notre Dame, Michaela Elliott, the Senior Associate Director of Graduate Admissions, and Trista Habe from Isenberg at the University of Massachusetts. She's the Executive Director of Graduate Employer Relations and Outreach. So we've got a lot to cover in the next 45 minutes. John, let me hand over with this great group of panelists.
Well, welcome all. Let me just say that to our panelists and to everyone out there. We think we have a topic here that everyone is interested in. After all, the MBA is a journey, and it's a journey toward a successful career. And so I'm going to start asking our panelists. And Steve, let's start with you. What does career success mean for MBA students in 2025, and how has the definition evolved?
I think it has evolved so much, and I think if we have this discussion 1 year from now, it's likely that's going to change even more. I think when people think of success, they're going to create their own definitions of success. I think there are two components that I think any MBA candidate is probably would put into the definition of success. And let's be obvious about the first, which is earnings potential. Let's not ignore that people likely are doing this because they don't feel that they have the experience, possibly the education, in order for them to take on the leadership roles that will mean increasing their salaries over time. I think we all know, and our MBA students likely have looked at a job description, looked at those credentials down the bottom, and seen one of these two things, MBA preferred or MBA required. So in order to even be qualified for some of these roles, obviously this is a step that needs to be taken. But the evolution of what is successful beyond kind of the earnings potential is, where do you see the progression? And I think sometimes people will view the MBA as, I need it for just that boost. I need to get to that level, and that MBA is going to get you. But we're always trying to coach our MBA candidates to look beyond that individual path that you may have carved out, because as you continue to learn more and more throughout your 2 year MBA journey, it's likely you're going to learn something that might steer you down a different path. And for those that like a path and stick to a path, we kind of share the dangers of that, which is you have to have different paths because something's going to change. Like times are changing, economies are changing, industries are changing. And in order for you to really have what we call a successful career, it's likely you're going to do different things, because
Mm,
otherwise, if you want to be an expert in a specific area, you're getting a master's in a certain area. An MBA is intentionally broad so that you have visibility across all aspects of business so that you can help contribute and make decisions for the entire organization. So for us
true.
right now, we're telling folks, look beyond and have those backup paths, and make sure that you're talking to people in all different adjacent areas of an industry. Hopefully, you know the area or the industry that you think that you're passionate about, because to be successful, you're going to want to have a passion for what you're doing. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a grind. Even with a new degree and some great new experience, you have to have a passion about what you're doing. So that's where during the 2-year journey, we're challenging and exposing all of our candidates to lots of different things in hopes that they'll realize maybe I should be leaning in and at least learning about that during this 2-year safe period that we call the MBA.
Yeah, great. Kim, what's your take on career success today for an MBA?
Yeah, I would agree with Steve, and I would also add, that I think a lot of MBAs look at it from a financial standpoint. What is their salary post MBA? What is their bonus post MBA? But I think MBAs today are also really looking for meaning and impact in an organization more so than even in the past. I'm seeing that more and more. They really want to have meaning in their career, and they also want it to fit in their lives, if that makes sense. They want, a lot of them have a certain location they're interested in, or a couple of locations they're interested in. The culture of the company is very important to them. I think that a lot of students are becoming much more discerning in where they want to go and how they want their post MBA career to look. And so we enjoy really working with those students to kind of determine, similar to how Steve mentioned, kind of what that path might be for them.
Right. Trista?
Yeah, I mean, obviously echoing what my colleagues have shared already, but really it's a holistic view, right? I think this is a generation of MBA applicants who are seeing the bigger picture and wanting to instill change, wanting to make an impact, wanting to have professional and personal fulfillment. And so that's really where I'm seeing that shift, right? Is yes, there's financial, yes, there's bonus. Yes, there's advancement, but there's also, I really want to be a leader, or I want to be part of the decision-making process that changes things for the future. And so that's been really fun for us, is really to connect with our students, identify their career paths, looking at their transferable skills and aligning it so they can take those next steps in this journey, and also to take that process in the classroom, right? Immersing themselves, trying new things, taking experiences so they are a well-rounded leader. So that's kind of fun for us.
Yeah, totally. Michaela, how about at Notre Dame?
Awesome. Yeah. So I think my colleagues hit on quite a few of the things that I would note, but I will just kind of double click on this conversation about path. I think that going into an MBA previous year, students were really focused on finding this perfect forever job or working for a dream company that they're really excited about. And it's more so about preparing you for this very broad path that your career could take, and ultimately about ways that you can keep yourself relevant in the job market as it evolves, especially when thinking about the technological evolution that is happening right now, thinking about ways that students can differentiate themselves and ultimately keep some of that job security is more so what the degree, of course, is offering, and thinking about how that they can continue to develop that after their program. So even if a student is, pivoting into marketing, for example, maybe they are pursuing a role that ultimately will help them make them enough money to pay back for their MBA. But they're acquiring, of course, those transferable skills, like Trista mentioned, that will help them elevate wherever they go in their career.
Right. One of the things that I think is a pet peeve for me is how so many applicants measure the ROI of the MBA degree by starting salaries and sign-on bonuses. When obviously, the MBA is a tool to a long-term look at your career, and the benefits extend throughout that entire career. So, just staying with you, Mikkel, how do you define and measure the long-term ROI of an MBA? How does someone think about that?
It's going to be different, of course, for every person. I think that there are a few different things that students are going to be looking at. So, of course, they might be thinking about the salary. They might also be thinking about the prestige of an institution. They might also be thinking about the value of that alumni base. I think one
Mm.
of our faculty members says it's best when he speaks with our prospective students, and that, who do you want to call your network in the future? Who do you want to continue to lean on for years to come? And thinking about a place that values that alumni, as well as the general network that's connected to the university itself, is going to be incredibly valuable for some. And so be thinking about the specific skill sets you are looking to learn. That might also be, the actual skill sets that you are acquiring in the program that pay dividends as you, of course, progress in your career. So that is kind of only part of the puzzle, right? With the cost of the program, but you'll also be wanting to think about the actual experience that you are having inside of the classroom, outside of the classroom, and what you are looking for out of that experience.
A lot of these elements are what to borrow from the famous MasterCard promotion, priceless, right? I mean, how do you put a price tag or a benefit tag rather on an alumni network that supports you throughout your career, provides opportunities that you might otherwise never have been exposed to, allows you to be more effective at work by, having people you can immediately turn to for important advice on a challenge that you may be confronting at any given time without any political ramifications. Um, Trista, your definition of long-term ROI for an MBA, would it be priceless?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I echo, that it's certainly a combination, right, of financial investment. There is a debt that our students take on, and what does that tuition bill look like, right? You have to be
True.
comfortable with evaluating your long-term goals and what does the outcome look like for you, and does that financially meet your needs? But then I agree that there is also a component of your network, your connectivity to the university, the ability to be 10, 20 years out in your career and then maybe potentially pivot with a certificate program or connectivity and feel tied to then continue to develop your own career path and to continue advancing and sharpening your skill sets, right? Because there's things that are coming and evolving every single day that we have to stay up on the times. So when I think about also RI beyond the investment, it's also your connectivity to campus, your ability to continue to grow with that institution. And as mentioned, your network, right? Those are your people, your access for mentorship, for support, for idea generation, for so many things. And so, yes, I agree that the ROI is a mix of financial happiness in your fulfillment and also the connectivity to your institution.
Kim, your definition of long-term ROI for an MBA?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty similar to what my
Yeah.
colleagues have stated, but I'd also say that you have to take into account how the MBA sets you up for future leadership roles and C-suite roles. One thing that I've heard from a lot of the students that I've worked with over the last few years is that the reason that they decided to pursue an MBA is because when they looked at all the leaders of their organization or another, organization that interested them, that the majority of the leaders in that organization had an MBA. So I think the fact that it can set you up for those future leadership opportunities is another thing that you can't necessarily put a price tag on. So it's sort of goes in that priceless category. But in addition to the alumni network and financial benefits, I think that future leadership can be a big benefit to an MBA.
The other thing is that, when ROI is defined as what's my starting salary and signing bonus and what will the increase be over my pre-MBA pay, tuition becomes another sort of calculus. It's been said here tuition is high, and in many cases it is. But also it's the price tag and not the what a lot of people pay because there's so much scholarship money out there. And And business schools have been very effective at fundraising to get more scholarship aid. So Steve, let me open the door to that part of the ROI equation, even though that is part of the short term, but then you also comment on this long-term issue.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think when candidates come to us and they ask about the ROI, you would think that the organization that we all work for would have this perfect formula to say, okay, let's sit down and I'm going to give you the number because, we're working with numbers. We've got faculty, and we've got a faculty member here who teaches finance. And sometimes we'll bring him in to meet with candidates, and he'll start with, I'm going to go through this exercise because you're not going to leave feeling good unless I at least give you a number. So he has created this formula where he says, let's talk about your current salary right now. And then I'm gonna kind of model through what the rest of your career will look like with and without an MBA. So obviously this model is going to reflect something that works in the favor of getting your MBA. But we also remind them to say, getting your MBA is not your ticket to this earnings potential, this fast track salary to your career progression into leadership roles. That comes with work. You're now going to have a new headline to jumpstart your career, because prior to that, your headline might be the limited years of work experience you have and your undergraduate degree. Some of that is relevant in helping you get a job. Some of it, maybe your undergraduate degree has no relevance on what it is. We see our candidates coming in, and some of those degrees are less likely to have a correlation to an MBA program. But it gives you that license to say, I now have new knowledge that my past degree and my work experience maybe doesn't qualify me for this role, but an MBA will open those doors because now you have visibility into all aspects of business. So it's not a ticket to that high salary job, but it might be the introduction to it. I saw this one statistic that said over a 35-year career, MBA grads report earning a median cash compensation of 5.7 million. And in contrast, those that only have an undergraduate degree earn almost $2.5 million less. So if any candidate needs to know the numbers, they're out there. But how you play a role in this is all going to come down to what it is that you're looking to do and how hard it is that you want to work, because the hard work doesn't go away. It's just you have new knowledge to solve bigger problems that hopefully will open up bigger opportunities to do all these other things and make some more money.
And I'll say this too, you're more likely to get the job you really want. You're more likely to get opportunities you otherwise would not have had. And you're less likely to be laid off during your career with an advanced degree. And that's what all the research shows.
And John, one last thing on that note is it's going to prepare you for whatever is going to happen, because you may choose a job in an industry that 5 years from now just might disappear. But that's where your industry knowledge doesn't disappear completely, because you have that business knowledge, which will allow those skills to apply to any industry that you may be applying for.
So true. Matt,
well, perhaps agility is one of those skills. And Kim, you were talking about characteristics that we're identifying in the C-suite and beyond in entrepreneurs. When we think about, sometimes we frame them as hard skills and soft skills. I remember one school talking about sharp skills and smart skills. However we define them, what are the skills today that are truly differentiating MBA grads in the marketplace?
Well, I think a variety of skills are differentiating people, everything from technical skills and strategic skills to the ones that, you used to call soft skills. I think we're hearing from employers a lot about critical thinking skills and problem solving skills. Those are some of the ones that they want to see, as well as executive communication. They want people that can communicate exceptionally well. And so I know in our program, we've kind of created a Rise to Leadership program that is sort of like an experiential learning program with various sessions that allow the students to kind of learn those soft skills in addition to the things that they learn in the classroom. And I think programs like that will really help the students get to the point where they could, for whatever the employer is looking for, they not only have the technical skills and technical knowledge that they're looking for, but they also have those soft, kind of executive communication skills that are needed. So I think it's really important that, for MBA programs to kind of offer both, because I think employers kind of want it all. So, or at least that's what I'm hearing.
And the students do too. I'm sure at Isenberg, just somewhere between AI literacy and storytelling, the communication
Yes.
skills. How do you ensure that you've got that balance of the skills that are going to be relevant for the next steps of their career?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the curriculum and the academics, right, are the core foundations of your MBA. You then apply, like we're saying, is interpersonal communications and skills and empathy and real qualities that our recruiters are looking for in leaders and managers and people they actually want to work with on their team. And so we really try to flip the script a little bit and bring in recruiters or alumni to share their internal perspective of what their organizations are looking for. Because I could say some of these things over and over, but when you have a recruiter or a hiring manager say, this is what makes people stand out, students take note, right? And then they really lean into that. They want to understand how to be a better public speaker. They want to understand how to work within a culture and understand their team members. They really want those interpersonal skill sets and communications 100%. Like that's what's going to make you stand out. And that is the balance that we seek within Isenberg, right? Is like the faculty are going to give you the skill sets that you need, and the Career Center and your network and your alumni coming back are going to help you develop all the other skill sets that you're going to practice and apply.
Right. Michaela, perhaps you heard the cry that came from the West Coast a few weeks ago of a well-known school. We don't need to say who it was, where the students clamored and they said, we're not learning anything. And yet, of course, as you think about AI literacy, but all of the fundamentals that are also going into that personal development, how do you ensure at Mendoza that you're striking that balance in a 2-year journey of the MBA?
Yeah, so part of this conversation about success, of course, is landing a role at the end of all of their educational journey. And a huge benefit to pursuing an internship, of course, is hopefully that translates into a full-time opportunity. In that first year, before students have even entered their internship, we do require students to actually take a communications course to work on what we call our executive presence, so that students are able to effectively communicate with impact. We also require students to take a foundational AI related course that also touches on AI governance, as we have a large focus on the ethics and leadership that they'll have to navigate as they are elevating in their career. We also are requiring students to take data storytelling. And so kind of hitting on all three of those marks we've hit on, our students are required to take those courses before they even jump into their internship so that they are better able to translate that into a full-time role in the future. Beyond that, I think that students who really exhibit grit or a level of resilience, as they are going through their interview process or able to speak to those types of experiences are going to have better outcomes. They need to be able to kind of change with the tide as they are navigating really complex situations in their future roles. And so another one of the, I guess, quote unquote, soft skills, we will call them, is that grit and hard work that it takes to be a transformational leader.
Right. As we begun this session, Steve, you gave the example of the job post that said MBA preferred or even MBA required. You all have a constant dialogue with employers. When they talk to you about the skills that they really want to see in Rice graduates, what sort of feedback do they share?
Yeah, it's real clear that, we've got a loyal group of employers that love to come and hire our students. whether or not there are younger profile full-time students or there are working professionals. There's value in both, in different ways. One thing that we know about these employers is that we've done the work for them when it comes to identifying candidates that have the knowledge. Like they know what our curriculum looks like so that they know the caliber of knowledge that our graduates will have. The piece that they love to come onto campus to learn about, and this is something we're coaching our students about, is you're going to have all this new knowledge, but if you don't have leadership potential, if you don't know how to communicate, and you don't know how to attract and incent people to want to work with and for you, you're another individual contributor with another degree. And nobody wants that. That's not what you want. So for us, it's making sure in the curriculum, it's all that organizational behavior pieces, understanding people, because if you don't have that, if you want to go off and do a real kind of more technical side of business, you can be very successful. But we're creating leaders here. And if you don't have the leadership skills, and that comes in time. But I think and I think our employers, they're looking for that potential. Sometimes that potential comes in very informal sessions. That's where they come over because they just want to come to a happy hour or they want to come to a coffee chat. Because I think a lot of these folks that are hiring right now, again, they can check all the boxes to say, we think that this person has the capacity to do the job. Now we need just to see, are they a good fit for the culture? And this is a great, exercise and a great advantage to our students to say, we feel that you're going to have the capacity now. Now it's up to you to find the fit. So these coffee chats and these social hours can be a great opportunity to shake hands, have a quick conversation, and either say, yes, I want to move forward, or say no. But it's up to you. You're not in that desperate stage anymore. We tell our candidates, that you have to just grab any opportunity that's presented to you. You're in a position now with all this new great knowledge to apply it in a place where you feel comfortable and where you feel valued. So don't overlook the culture piece of it. So I think for folks right now, it's, these employers they're in the driver's seat, but I also say it's up to you to find it. You're not in a race anymore. Find your fit.
Trista, I'd love to know the statistic of how many career opportunities began with a coffee chat. Well, it's 2025,
Absolutely.
so it's probably matcha, right, rather than coffee. But as I think about, reading between the lines of a resume of an individual that can motivate others to work with and for them, how are you in career services evolving to meet that job market and the needs of students, and perhaps not just Fortune 500 and big consulting firms, but entrepreneurs and perhaps people with less traditional profiles?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a large number of non-traditional students and entrepreneurs who are looking to pave their own way or pivot or completely, change career paths. And that's actually, I think, the exciting part of working in career services for us, as helping people explore what that looks like. And it's funny, I've worked with MBAs specifically for over 13 years now, and everyone gets really nervous in, the early onset of their program about how am I applying to an internship when I have not taken a class, right? Like we all know that the cycle for internships and in opportunities starts really early for MBAs, and they get very nervous about that. But the reality is they are going to learn those things. So we take actually the early part to bring them up to speed in a little bit of life design and really thinking about their values, who they are as a leader, what they desire, what are their goals? Because if they don't have that in place, it doesn't matter if you apply to 200 internships. They're not comfortable with who they are as a leader or understanding what that looks like. So having them meet with our coaches and designing programming to initiate the exploration early truly sets our students up for success, because then they're more confident, more comfortable, and they come into interviews and coffee chats with more awareness of who they are and what questions they should be facilitating in that. And so I really think that some of those early conversations are the most valuable to our students.
That sense of self-awareness, Michaela, and there's only so much that these large language models can do to really take that deeper dive and the sort of partnership and journey that you share with your Mendoza students. So in a world where resumes might be being read by AI tools, how again are you preparing candidates to use those networking opportunities and really stand out as they're connecting with different employers?
I think the preparation early is key, again, with our requirements, but we do require our students to meet with our career services team twice, even before they step foot on campus. And this is, again, to, kind of start that reflective journey before they even jump into our career leadership course, which they will have during orientation, to be able to strategize their networking and have a game plan before they even come to campus. I will go ahead and brag on our alumni network at Notre Dame. We're number 4 for our alumni network. And so a large portion of your time as an MBA student will be to be utilizing that network, reaching out to people. We have a portal that is specifically for Mendoza graduates and current students, so that it's essentially like our own version of LinkedIn, which is really great. And it is the easier way, more direct way to connect with each other. Besides that, we of course will encourage students to take advantage of any opportunities for conferences. Have been very impactful for students who are looking for internship and full-time opportunity interviews. And we actually provide some funding for students to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So that, of course, could be even some virtual opportunities that take place for our students. But many of the time, students are going ahead and meeting people in person.
Right. Steve, I'm sure you're reminded on a daily basis at Rice, every candidate's story is different, their profiles, their backgrounds. So, working with the cohort to meet their needs, that there might be career switchers, there might be founders, social impact seekers. How do you make that personal to each individual?
I'm on mute now. Similar to what Mikhail had just said, we do a similar journey in that during that first week of the program where our students are, they're here for an entire kind of real intensive week, is when our career development office gets in front of them and says, okay, the time is now to start thinking about this. And I think for a lot of our students, they're worried about accounting and finance classes. And they're like, do I really need to think about career development right now? And it's not to overwhelm them anymore, but it's also to get them prepared, because their story as a Rice MBA candidate is as strong as a Rice MBA graduate, meaning you now have a new opportunity to shake a hand with a new introduction, to say something new, which you never know what that's going to turn into. So similar to what Mikhail said, is all of our students are required to do this one-on-one intake with our career advisors. And that career advising could be, I don't know anything that I want to do right now, and I'm here to explore, versus I want IB, and therefore I know I need to go down this track and prepare this way and do the internships. Like, there are specific tracks, and there are some that are much looser. But for those that are still exploring, there's going to be so many opportunities. Some of them are virtual, some are on campus. Sometimes we'll take them off campus, because sometimes not all the answers are going to be in our beautiful, 3-mile campus in Houston, Texas. So that's where, if you're interested in tech, we're going to take you to Silicon Valley. Next week, we're taking a bunch of students to New York City for a week on Wall Street. So you have to see where those opportunities are. And luckily, we have a team that understands that everyone's views might be different. And maybe you test it out. And sometimes getting outside of the classroom and getting out off the campus can be a really valuable wake-up call to say, wow, it's, as much as it feels safe, I have to start looking beyond just my own academic environment.
Yeah. Kim, a final thought for you. We've talked about alumni, and colleagues like Naz have convinced me of the power of gators that we will find in Silicon Valley. We'll see them in New York. They seem to be everywhere. Ways that you're using alumni, even perhaps as mentors, but it's an extraordinary network that can really make a difference for candidates.
Absolutely. Yes, we do have a very strong alumni base, which we're very proud of, like Mikhail mentioned about her group as well. And Gators are everywhere, we find. Um, and I think that we feel like networking is key. Similar to my colleagues here, we work with students from the very beginning, pre-orientation, and then obviously through orientation to do the exploration that they need to figure out exactly what it is they want to do. But we think when they network with alumni in particular, they can actually ask them a lot of questions about their career because that's how a lot of them figure out what it is they want to do. So we try to make those connections as early as possible, so that they can kind of start working through the network and trying to figure out exactly what it is they want to do. Um, and I know you mentioned some non-traditional students like entrepreneurs. And fortunately, over the last 5 years, I've worked with a lot of students who end up either wanting to go into entrepreneurship or maybe go into startups. So we have a lot of connections that we can say, well, why don't you call this alum and ask them about their experience going to the startup. So that's what we find that we're doing a lot, is just connecting them to people who've been through the same experience that they're interested in, so that they can kind of figure out if it is the right approach for them. And I know at UF we have a UF Innovate office that's right across the street. It's basically adjacent to our campus. We had one student this summer who did her internship there, and kind of learned from some of the technologies that are coming out of our professors and faculty at UF, and kind of going into the commercialization phase of those technologies. And she was able to work with those companies through the summer. So if students have that kind of interest, we try to connect them with, people that can kind of use their skills and kind of give them the ability to try and see if that is the path that they want to take.
I mean, it's such an opportunity for exploration. And I think, John, you were going to look at how candidates can change roles and they can change industries.
Indeed. We focused most of the conversation today on how you support and help current students. But in truth, many MBA programs are helping alumni navigate career pivots, negotiate their next promotion or salaries, and exposing them to other opportunities beyond what they already have. And I wondered, to that extent, Trista, maybe you start us off on what kind of support you're giving your alumni.
Yeah, absolutely. Very timely, because we've actually done a complete revamp of how we support our alumni, given where we are in the times and what we're seeing with our students. Because our students are taking, right, sometimes a longer runway for that next step, even after their MBA. They might have secured something and they immediately changed, or life happened, right? And they were in an industry that wasn't feasible then to move forward. So we've actually expanded our career services, enhanced our resources, spoken to alumni to find out what they're specifically looking for. We have a coach assigned to working with our alumni for the life, their life of their career, truly, because what we message to our students is you're going to have opportunities to pivot, to change areas, to advance in different ways. Like it's been stated, it's very uncommon these days that someone's going to stay in an organization for their entire career, right? And so we have to prepare those alumni for those pivot points and support them with resources and strategies. And so we have a set number of opportunities that our alumni can take advantage with their career coach in a year, and then they can meet one-on-one. But then we also have resources and opportunities and sessions designed and tailored for our alumni, because you really need to support them through that life cycle.
So, Kim, once a Gator, always a Gator. What do you do to help support alumni?
Yes. Well, we actually we don't have a coach that is specifically assigned to alumni. However, we do typically, because we build such strong relationships with our students one-on-one, usually the student, or the alums, I should say, end up reaching out to their career coach who they worked with and kind of continue that relationship. We will meet with students on a one-on-one basis, and a lot of times we can kind of connect them with someone maybe in another field that they're interested in pivoting to. We also find that some of our alums end up attending national career fairs and things like that with our current students. I know Mikhail mentioned that her students go to some of these, conferences or career fair type areas, and that some of our alums have joined our group there, and it's been a great experience for them to then kind of look for their next career path and meet with current students.
Great. Mikhail, about Notre Dame's support of alumni and their careers long term. What are you doing there?
Yeah, I'll emphasize kind of the same points as Kim in that because of those relationships, naturally some of our alumni just come back and are able to have conversations, though we don't have a designated career coach for alumni. And a lot of our support goes back to being able to put you in contact with the right person and being able to really leverage our network. And so even if, the initial person who you speak to at our career center doesn't quite have the perfect person to put you in contact with, people are always asking around to make sure that we can elevate our alumni who are part of the program. I'll also say that they will have access to specific job boards, relevant opportunities there. And again, our alumni portal, that's essentially our own version of LinkedIn for Mendoza.
That's great. Steve, your take on alumni support?
Yeah, I think it's crucial for us. I think with our program, we talk about how close-knit and intimate it is, but also comes with that is that there's just fewer of us. And that's where I think this works to our favor. I think people, when they're making changes and you're casting your net to a small, very active group of alumni, they tend to be very responsive. People chose Rice because of that. And then I'll use for an example, here in Houston, Texas, the oil and gas industry obviously is a big piece of this city, but there's a lot of change going on right now. So it has those kind of oil and gas lifers trying to decide, do I want to stay? So for many of them, they're looking for a safe opportunity to meet someone that they have some things in common with, maybe make some introductions, or possibly make a severe pivot. There are some folks who come into the program saying, I know I want out of oil and gas, so therefore the MBA is going to be my ticket out. We also see our alumni here on campus all the time. One thing that we offer to our alums is the opportunity to audit classes after they graduate. So in the second year of the program, most of the classes they're taking are electives. So they're not able to take all the electives that they want. It's just physically and time-wise, it's impossible to do that. And not to mention, we'll introduce new electives that are more relevant now than they were years ago. So we'll retire others. So to have students in class with alum is really valuable for everyone because our alums continue to learn and they're adding stories and value to the classroom. And then the last piece is our students can come back and leverage our career development office for the rest of their career. We have folks in there that just work with our kind of experienced hires at more of our executive levels during the program, but they also are the folks that handle our alums as they continue to evolve in their careers.
John, I always know when it's a great panel, when I have all of these other questions that I want to ask the panelists. I want to talk about, how you prepare your graduates for careers that don't even exist yet. If we'd asked you that question 5 years ago, or, the piece of advice that you give graduates, but you'll all have to come back so I can ask you those other questions. What we designed was one final question that was intended to potentially be a one-word answer. There's your test. And we're going to make you choose networks, skills, the brand. As you think about the true driver of post-MBA success, which of those three or one other would you choose? Who wants to start? Kim?
Sure. I would have to go with skill set. I think that it's hard to develop your brand or even to network without having a skill set. So I think, I know at Warrington, we really leverage our highly ranked faculty in order to build that skill set. And then I think you can use that skill set to network and to, kind of develop your brand. But I think the skill set's really important.
Very clever. You've covered all three, but in a very artful way. Steve, which one are you going to choose?
I'm going opposite direction. I'm going with network. I think network is crucial. I think as working professionals, your network, whether it's your professional network or your social network, it may stall. And being part of an institution where the network is never stale, always growing and always available means that you're always going to have a network of folks to reach out to because something will stall in your career. And I think as we start to move through life, sometimes your network in your own industry can be very, very narrow. And on the social side, sometimes your social network turns into your kids, friends, parents, and they're not going to get me my new opportunity. That's where I think the Rice network is it's so valuable and so responsive. And when we as a team reach out to our alums to help us connect with a candidate or help us with an event, one beats the other to the punch all the time, and that's a really nice place to be.
Okay, so two panelists, two different great answers. Mikhail?
All right, it's probably no guess that I'm going to go with network as well. I'm going to say network though as a verb in that, if you do that really well, you really maximize your ability to find a job throughout your career. And I'll also shout out our 266 alumni clubs that are around the world and say that regardless of where students go, they need to be able to leverage a powerful network in order to get their foot in the door.
Right. We've even got versions of nouns and verbs. That's a great nuance. Trista, deciding vote or perhaps something completely new?
Yeah, I feel like the pressure is on. But I definitely would lean on network. I do. I truly think that those students who take advantage of the network are going to have a stronger sense of their career path, their opportunities. The hidden job market is real, so they're uncovering opportunities that may never be posted. So I think that the network is exactly what I would lean on because it has such a breadth and depth of where they're going to go. And I think the skill sets and things that I'm very confident in our academic side. And I think the students who lean in on their network are the ones that really thrive.
We began this session with John talking about career success, focused naturally, of course, on your MBA students and alumni. And I wonder if the four of you ever get the chance to ask yourselves, because when we talk about purpose, when we talk about impact, just the way that you've shared your institutions with that energy and extraordinary dynamism, clearly there's purpose and impact spilling out of all four of you. And that's what makes these Centre Court events so special. I think we've captured that, whether it's skills, whether it's the network as a verb or as a noun, and the purpose that you discover, the MBA remains one of the most powerful platforms for lifelong growth. It's not too late, John, to get yours.
I
But
don't
Steve,
know.
Mikhail.
I'll have to look for a scholarship, I think.
But I
I'll
want to
just
thank
add,
all
add
four
to
of
this,
you.
and this is something I say all the time, but I need to say it here, just in case members of our audience have not heard it yet. The business school is the only school in the academy that believes that its job is not done when it hands you its degree when you cross that stage. Its job is done when you get a job. And there's no other school, no other college like that at a university. And what we've talked about here is not only um, is that part of the agenda of a business school education, but then even after you graduate, long after you graduate, you can go back to your school, you can tap your network, you can get support for a career pivot, for a negotiation with a salary, for how do you get a promotion, um, and just rethinking your career with people who would be supportive of you in ways that you can't with your colleagues. And that is really special. And to me, that is really the special sauce of a business degree.
Yeah. Well, thank you, all four of you, Michaela, Trista, Kim, and Steve, for sharing that special sauce with
Thank
us
you
in the
very
last
much,
hour.
really.
It was a great session.
And to all of you, thank you for watching.